this is the class recap from week 1 of Intro to Dance Movement in April of 2018. The first thing that we did was we learned about different parts of our feet so that we weren't using our foot like a single stationary object. If you take off your shoes and look at the bottom of your foot, so your toes, like your actual digits, right? Those are your toes, yeah? The round part right below your toes, the big meaty part here, is the ball of your foot. We have the instep or the arch, and we have the heel. Generally, when we walk around through our daily life, we walk heel through the ball and then push off with the toes. That's just how we use our foot without thinking about it. In dance, we use our foot in lots of different ways. So when people come to dance as an adult later in life, sometimes they tend to kind of stiffen up and use their whole foot as just a block, right? And if I'm only stepping on the whole surface of my foot, it's very like, similarly, if I'm all the way up on my toes, it's a little stiff, and if I'm way back on my heels, that's a very hard place to balance. So what I had you guys do is kind of rock your weight forward and back, exploring the different parts of your feet, and then we wanted to leave our weight toward the front part of our foot. Not on our toes, but on the ball of our foot, that large portion of the front of our foot. We did some ball heel walking, where we put the ball of our foot down and dropped our heel. Ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel. We also did some basic balance and strength exercises, because if you are coming to dance later in life, especially if you are a sedentary person or someone who's just never asked their body to move before, it can be hard to perform some movements without some basic balance and strength. So the first thing that we did was squats, where we put our feet outside of our hip base, and we went down as low as we could get, and we came back down. So we send our weight back into our heels and come back up. So we did a bunch of those, and we held them down to the bottom and did little bounces, right? We did calf raises, and that's where you come up as high as you can onto the front part of the ball of your foot and your toes, right? So you're just as tall as you can be, and then you set your heels back down. So we did a bunch of those, and then we held a balance at the top. If you're practicing these at home, it's great to have a kitchen counter to use as your balance point, or we also use chairs in class of just a thing to put your hand on to give you a little help, not a thing to lean on. The next thing that we did was pointing and flexing our foot. So we stood on one leg and we extended the other, and we point and flex and point and flex. We're just warming up through the ankle, basically. And then we rolled through the ankle in both directions. We did that on both sides, right? And then the last thing we did was some little one-leg taps, which was a balance and coordination exercise, where we stood on one leg and we tapped the floor in front of us. We tapped the floor under our body, we tapped the floor behind our body, and then we stepped down. So you're on one foot the whole time, tap, 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 and then you change your weight. So when you tap or touch the floor, there's no transfer of weight. You're not resting into that foot each time, which means you need to have the strength to be standing on one leg and the coordination to move your foot around on the floor. And we will expand on those next week. But they're a great thing to practice. Like if you like while you're waiting for your coffee to brew or waiting for water to boil, stand on one foot and then explore tapping the floor, changing weight, etc. Again, using a balance buddy if you need one, or hands on your hips if you don't. The next thing that we did was we practiced picking up our feet, because again, that's the thing I find that beginner students sometimes struggle with, is actually understanding how far their foot is away from the floor. And therefore they don't know whether or not they've really truly changed their weight from one foot to another. So we did some specific patterns using obstacles to make us pick up our feet. I used weights. You can use a pair of shoes, you can use 2 books, anything you have in your house. We did 2 different patterns. The first one, I was setting up my weight so the numbers are facing this way, and I'm standing in between them. And we rock to the side, step, replace, step down. So when I'm stepping, I go up and over the weight, I replace my foot where it was, I come back inside and do it to the other side. Up and over, replace, step down. Rock, replace, step down, and rock, replace, step down. We also did that turned this way, right? So now the weights are still, obviously facing the same way, but I am now facing so that they are perpendicular to me. We did that going backwards and forwards, and so for most people, this is the hardest one, right? Because stepping behind you, a lot of people just do this, right? They just brush their foot, and you saw exactly what happened when I just brushed my foot along the floor. So we want to get you in the habit of being able to take definitive, precise steps. Up and over, replace, step down, and up and over, replace, step down. So we rocked back, replace, step down, rock, forward, replace, step down. And we did that with both feet. So right now I'm using my right foot going back, replace, step down, and then my left foot going forward, replace, step down. We also did that starting with our left, so I'm using my left to go back, back, replace, step down, and forward, replace, step down. So if you were having trouble with a pattern like that, and kept kind of hitting your weights, what I recommend is set up a little obstacle course at home for yourself and take the pattern out of it and just make yourself walk through your little obstacle course, really picking up your feet, and most importantly, make yourself walk through your obstacle course going backwards, because that's harder, because we don't generally do that in our daily life, like walking backwards a whole lot. So, other things that we worked on in class were different types of lateral movement. So the first way that we moved across the floor was just going side together, side together. So I would reach out with one foot, step onto it, and then step on the other foot. Side, together, side, together. Right? So I'm using my left foot. If you're facing me, you will use your right foot, and there will be mirror images of each other. Side, step, and step, step, and step, step. So we're just stepping to the side, right? But we talked about how that's a little, it's hard to move smoothly like this, right? There's definite stop and start. So we played with something called a grapevine, which we would step side, behind, side, and front. So side, behind, side, and front. And we went both ways, side, behind, side, and front, side, behind, side, and front, because we talked about how you go a lot faster, boom, 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 and a lot smoother when you allow your feet to kind of stagger a little bit. We also worked on the idea of a ball change, so the people who are coming into our Intro to Swing class this Monday have a little leg up on learning their triple steps for swing dancing. So a ball change is where if you stand on one foot and you just press the ball of your foot into the ground enough to pick up the other foot and put it down. And you notice there's a little syncopation there. Ba-dum, ba-dum, as opposed to step, step. It's completely even, right? Walk, 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 walk. But ball change has a ha-ha, 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 ha-ha. We played with moving these. So we step forward. I'm using my right foot. Step, ball change, ball change, ball change, ball change. We went across the floor. We went the other way, so now I'm using my left foot. Step, ball change, ball change, ball change, ball change, ball change. And then for funsies, we alternated a little bit, and we went step, ball change, step, ball change, step, ball change, step, ball change. That's kind of your challenge mode right now, unless you're going right into our Intro to Swing class. Then right before we ran out of time, we did some jazz steps. We did some jazz squares. Jazz squares are literally just step, 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 step. So I'm using my right foot. If you're following along at home and facing me, you start with your left foot and just go step, 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 step. But now, instead of just stepping under our body, we're going to take that first step and send it across and change our weight. And then we go behind, and then the side, and then the front. So we step, 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 across, behind, side, and front. And so a way to trick your body into doing this, if you're having trouble with it, is to give yourself an obstacle to go around. So I'm going to give myself a little obstacle. I'm going to stand a little bit in front of and slightly to the right of my obstacle, so it's kind of behind me and to the left a little bit. And I'm going to step in front of it, and then I'm going to step behind, and then to the side and forward. So I'm making a box around my object. Obviously, as soon as you find this pattern, get rid of the object, because this makes a slightly more stilted version of our jazz square, because we're sneaking our way around an object, but we like to unlock that part of our brain that we already use every day, right? Obstacle avoidance, to not step on things and run into things, to help us unlock patterns in dance. I think that is everything that we worked on in class. You guys did a great job. I'm really excited to continue working with you, and we will build on this stuff next week and continue to refine some of the things that were giving us trouble. Thank you so much, and practice at home, and happy dancing.